background. I know you have a Bible, so please turn with me to Genesis chapter 37, and then I'm going to read the first 4 verses. It says, "Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan." This is the history of Jacob. And then that's what verse 1 says. Then when we go to verse 2, it's about Joseph. Again, we see the role, the importance, the generations in which Joseph plays a significant role, because verse 2 says, Joseph being, this is the history of Jacob. And then he talks about Joseph. Joseph being 17 years old was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah. So I said it up last week. I said Joseph was with these 4 brothers, step brothers, the sons of the concubines, and his father has set him above them in terms of responsibility and also in terms of even clothing. All right. So we talked about it last Friday, and then it says his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. So that got the brothers extra angry regarding this. The verse 3 says, "Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children." On top of loving Joseph more than his children, Joseph comes back and makes, we would say, telling tales, tales about his brothers to his dad. He was the son of his old age. That's one of the reasons why he loved Joseph so much. And also he made him a tunic of many colors. Verse 4 says, "But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him." Again, when you look at it, it sounds innocent, but when it says they could not speak peaceably to him, like we saw last Friday, greetings in the Middle East was shalom, or even the Arabs, it says salam alaikum. And they hated the brothers so much that they couldn't even utter the basic greeting of the time, "Peace be unto you," because it says they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. So now then we go into, then verse 5 says, "And Joseph had a dream." It says, "And Joseph had a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more." So now what we're seeing here is that we see the word hate being repeated again. But this time, the repetition is sinister, right? The repetition is sinister because what is happening is they building the sort. If we want to bring it into our world today, they have some kind of black book, and this black book is getting worse and worse for Joseph, because once they hated him, then they hated him more, and we're going to see more hatred. Now, like I said, when you start to hate somebody, unconsciously or consciously, you put together a black book, a ledger, So this how it goes. Well, man, that's the first one. Something happens again, man, that's the second time. Something happens again, man, that's the third time. Something happens again, that's the 4th time. Then all goes crazy. You may not have that black book, but the black book is in your mind, because what are you doing? You're adding up all the things that riles you up about that individual, and that's what the brothers were doing. So for the 11 brothers, there is this black book of hatred, and it's made up of the fact that their father openly loved Joseph. Number 2, Joseph is screaming. He's telling on his brothers. He's telling on his brothers. Number 3, he has a brand name fashion design motley coat which Jacob made specially for him, and we know the significance of that coat. We talked about it last week. The significance is that it sets him above. It sets him as special, somebody who is in a superior role, the coat that his dad made for him, right? So these things are added up. And then, of course, Now in verse 5, it says, and Joseph dreamed a dream. And what did he do? He told his brothers. And when he told his brothers, they were not too happy about it. And so here we can see why they hate him more and more and more, because now the dream is compounding the previous hatred. So it looks like every time it's getting worse for Joseph. Every time anything comes up, it's worse than the one before. And you see how naive Joseph is, because he goes on, he tells them, what does he do? And he said unto them, here I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. So you see how naive, how innocent he is. And there's nothing wrong with being innocent. But you and I, we got to be careful when we go to the workplace, when we go to school. We should know how when to share information, how to share information, who to share information with, because there are those who have, maybe sometimes in the church too. It happens in the church sometimes. So we want to make sure that when we have some key information, we know how to divulge that information. So look at it. And he said unto them, here I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. Verse 7 says, for behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheep. So you see what remember they felt like he was looking down on them. Like I said, he went and told his dad. The Bible says he brought an evil report of his brothers. So here, one of the things that he's telling his dad is, well, Dad, these guys, they're not looking after the sheep well. They're sitting around, loafing around, doing this, doing that kind of thing. So you can just imagine how this dream. And Joseph didn't stop there, but he elaborated on the dream. Uncanny memory, right? He elaborated on the dream. So you can see how that rubs some more and more salt in an open wound. So verse 8 says what? Verse 8 says, and his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they, you see the ledger, the black book that we're talking about, and they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. So now we see that things are not looking well for Joseph. Now we see the word hate is repeated again, but this time it has a murderous intent. You see, the first time they hated him, what just hated him, slapping around, and then the hatred got deeper and deeper with each passing event, with which the passing event, it gets worse and worse for Joseph. So now the hatred, they can't take it anymore. They've had it up to here. And look at it, coach. Look at it carefully. They asked two questions. First, shall thou indeed rule over us? That's question number one. And question number two, will you actually reign, have dominion over us? See, they don't know how accurate they are in their interpretation, these two questions that they ask. And so you can just, this in your mind's eye, you can just hear the brothers. Well, there comes the old man's parable, talking about Joseph, referring to him as a parable because he talks, right? Now, like I said before, the four brothers that Joseph was working with, who were they? The four sons of the two concubines. So what we have here, we have Dan and Naphtali, and then we have Gad and Asher. So for them, they were working closely to Jacob. So they have heard a lot. They have seen a lot. So for them, this stuff was just too much, And then just when you think it's all ended, now no more event that will cause more hatred. What happens? Look at verse 9. Verse 9 says, and he dreamed yet another dream. He dreamed yet another dream. So it's not ending. But this time, look what it says. This time says, and he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Wow. Wow. What this is that the content of Joseph's dreams. What did he do? You know, what he recounted to his family just exacerbated fraternal hostility. And now the second one incurred paternal discomfort, paternal anger, if you want to put it that way, and then rebuke. So now look at it. Look at it carefully. All the brothers can't stand him. His dad is now saying, well. But you know what? Jacob was no fool. Why do I say that? Jacob was no fool. Look at what the verse says. Verses 10 and 11 says, he kept that in his mind. If you recall, Jacob also had his own experience. He's had a show of drinks. You know, in chapter 28, when he was running away from his brother Esau, you know, we recall he was lying down on the ground, and he had used a stone as a pillow, and then he saw what? He saw a ladder leading all the way into heaven, right? So what did he do? He kept this, or he pondered it, just like Mary did. Mary kept these things and pondered them in her heart. When Mary was told about the birth that she was going to bear God's child, right? So Jacob would have been well aware that the dreams themselves came unsought. I mean, who goes to bed and say, tonight I'm going to go drink this drink? You see, dreams come to you. So Jacob was understood that look, there's nothing really I can do about it. Even though I don't understand, I don't like what he said about the sun and the moon. There's nothing I can do about it, because dreams come to you. You don't invite dreams. And these dreams for Jacob will understand that these dreams will have a future implication. It is indicating something's going to happen in the future. So Jacob just thought about these things quietly. You know, he just kept these things quiet to himself. He knows the implication. And then here's the implication of the dream to the brothers. It's very clear. He's a kid from nowhere, country boy. He worked his way up. He rose to become the prime minister of the land. He had everything that he wanted. That's the implication of the dream. Look at it, verse 10. And he told it his father and to his brethren, with verse 10. And his father rebuked him. You see, his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth? Jacob wasn't happy. But I want us to look at something here. This verse here, there's something, take notes on this. There's something very interesting about this verse. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I, watch this, and thy mother and thy brethren? But I want us to focus on mother. What is strange about this verse? What is strange about this verse? What I just underlined in yellow, shall I and thy mother. Why is this strange? Who is Joseph's mother? Rachel, not Leah. And if you travel a few steps backwards into chapter 35 of Genesis, Look at what he says. Look at what he says. In chapter 35, Rachel died. In chapter 35, Rachel died. So all this time, Joseph and his younger brother didn't have their biological mother around. So he says, verse 35, chapter 35, verse 18 says, and it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died. That's talking about Rachel, talking about Joseph and Benjamin's mother, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died. See that? That's what I wanted to look at. And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephraim. Now, Ephraim was Bethlehem. Important. Verse 20, and Jacob set a pillar upon her grave. That is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. What is strange about this? See, what we just read here in chapter 35, verse 18, that was when Rachel gave birth to Joseph's small brother. And we know the story. When she was giving birth to the child died. But what is important about this is that sometimes you may feel like you are unloved. Sometimes you may feel rejected. Sometimes you may feel hurt. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation that you don't think it's, well, man, how come things are not working out for me? How come things are not working out for me? So look at Leah, for example. Leah had to travel on camelback, all for long territory. But ask yourself the question, who changed Benjamin's diapers? Of course, they have the concubines, but I'm talking about the biological parents. So who changed Benjamin's clothes? Who washed Joseph's? I think it's a Leah. Who dressed Joseph, powdered his face, put cream on him and everything to make sure he doesn't have ash all over his legs and his ankle. Who creamed him up? I'm going to say Leah. Who cooked for them? I'm going to say Leah, because Leah was a man, was now the only wife, and so the two concubines, they were under Leah. They served Leah. So Leah was the mother that Jacob is referring to right here in verse 10. What is this that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother? You see? Now, Leah is the one who is taking Rachel's place. And why am I saying that? Because God's plan and purpose cannot be thwarted. You see, who did Jacob marry first? Leah. And I'm saying this because sometimes, like I said, when we find ourselves in rough situations, we think, well, we want to throw a pity party, and we want to think, why? But always, God's divine providence is always on the move. Always on the move. Always on the move. See, so Leah was the first wife, not Rachel. So all along, Leah was the one who constantly was in Jacob's life, and not Rachel. You see how God's providence works? Do you see how God's providence works? Jacob loved Rachel more than he did Leah. Matter of fact, he worked extra 7 years for Rachel. But Leah was the one who was constantly by Jacob, because Rachel died. Now, here's another question, another why. Another why. Because it was through Leah and that Judah came. You see how God works? The things that are despised, the things that are rejected, the things that we think are not important, that's what God uses. That's what the Bible says, 1 Corinthians 1, it says what? He will use what? He will confound the wise with the fool. You see that? Look at it. Look at chapter 49, verses 29 to 31. It says, like I said, It was through Leah that Judah came. And in the end, Jacob is buried by Leah, not Rachel, because Rachel died and was buried on the way. You know, the Bible says on the way to Ephrata. That's where Rachel was buried. Look at it now. It says, that's Jacob speaking. And he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered upon my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite. Right? Verse 30. And the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephraim the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. Watch this now, verse 31. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And what did Jacob say? He says, and there I buried Leah. See that? So tonight, what is your situation? Do you feel, well, you're not important? You feel, you've been looked down upon at home, in the church, at work? I mean, what is your situation tonight? See, Rachel was buried when there was but a little distance to go to Ephraim. And I buried her there on the way to Ephraim. That is Bethlehem, that's Rachel. That's, But I can understand why folks feel sorry for Leah. Jacob loved Rachel more. So, Rachel was Jacob's preference. See, like I said, Jacob loved Rachel and even worked 7 more years in order to pay the bride price set by her father. So what am I saying here? When you look at verse 10, and Jacob makes a reference to Leah. It says, well, shall I and my mother bow down to you? The mother in that verse refers to who? To Leah. Leah knew that the only reason Jacob married her was because her father tricked Jacob into marrying her, Leah. She knew that. So she must have felt unwanted by Jacob. And sometimes you too, you may feel unwanted. Sometimes you may feel like you've been pushed aside. Sometimes you may feel like you've been walked all over. But remember that God's providence is different. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. All things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. That's Leah right there. That's Leah right there. And Leah knew that her little sister probably made sure she knew who Jacob's favorite was. You know that rivalry, right? I mean, if you have a man with 2 wives and the man loves one more than the other, definitely the rivalry will be there. And the one who's loved more will make sure that the one who's loved less knows that, well, you are not his favorite. You see? And we don't know when Leah died, right? But we know that Jacob directed that she be entombed in the family burial cave. So, like I said, Leah was there from when the gates opened. Leah was there up all the way until her death. All the time by Jacob's side. See, and in Egypt, right, the land of Ham, they call it the land of Ham as well. Sometimes called Rahab. In Egypt, where Jacob was living at his death, it says in Genesis 50 verse 2 says what? It says that the art of preserving bodies was practiced, and so Jacob's dying wish was that he wanted his body placed in the family burial cave. That's where what's the name? Leah's burial was. So Leah was Joseph's adopted mother. So regarding this dream, Jacob asked, your mother and I are going to come down with your brothers and bow before you? Yes, of course. That's what the dream was all about. Rachel was dead and gone. You see, now you think, you think Jacob was rejecting this dream, but he's not rejecting it. You remember what I said before? Look at verse 11. Verse 11 says, and his brethren envied him, but his father observed the same. So that's right here. Verse 11, his father observed the same. He kept it in mind. Now look at verse 12. Verse 12. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. I want you to look at that. Shechem. This Shechem right here. Shechem. Shechem was about some 60 miles away. And Shechem, the mention of Shechem brings up or conjures some very bad, terrible memories. What do I mean by that? Well, according to chapter 35, Dinah, if you recall, Leah had one daughter, Dinah. Her name was Dinah. So Dinah was raped right there in Shechem. So because of this, the result was that the same young man wanted to marry Dinah. You know what happened? Simeon and Levi, they tricked this young man. They tricked him and said, well, if you really love our sister, this is what we want to do. We want you to be circumcised, but not only you, but we want all the men in the city, in the town, to be circumcised. Then we'll give our sister to you. Now, like I said, this guy, his father was influential. His father had something. So what happened? So when Simeon and Levi told him, this is what we want, the whole male population in Shechem were what? They got circumcised. And you know what happened? The brothers, so many brothers, the Bible says they went into the city of Shechem and they massacred, they killed all the men in Shechem. It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. They killed all the men. So today, when chapter 37 says, and Joseph's brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem, there is a history there, a terrible history. You see, because of what they did, they were unpopular in that area. So for these boys to go back into Shechem, maybe 5-6 years later, they are on a dangerous mission. So let's look at verse 13. And Israel said unto Joseph, do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, here am I. You see how obedient and respectful Joseph is. His father called him, I want to send you to Shechem. And Shechem, like I said, Shechem has history there. But Joseph said, yes, Dad. Because he's the administrator of his father's business. He promptly obeys his dad. And so you and I, sometime when we're older and our parents are older, we still think, well, because our parents are older, we can talk to them anyhow, or we can do whatever we want to do, and we respect them. That no, let's not do that. Your dad is your dad, your mom is your mom. Your grandfather is. That's what it is, because he promptly obeyed his dad. See, sometimes we make innocent decisions like this, and in a split second, our lives are changed forever. It was a simple, listen carefully, it was a simple request. Even though he was going into dangerous territory, it was a simple request. Just bring this food to your brothers. Just bring this refreshment to your brothers. About a month ago, I just got here. I had an appointment. I said, let me go. So I got in the van, I'm driving, I'm minding my own business. What happened? Somebody hit me in the back, rear-ended me, and I ended up on somebody else's front lawn, avoiding trees and going through ditches and everything. It was a simple, I have an appointment. I'm going to an appointment. What's the point here? Listen carefully. Every day, we make simple, ordinary decisions. but we don't know when it's going to be our last day on earth. That is why you ought to make sure that you're living and walking according to the word of God. That's the point. That's the point. I mean, it was a simple mission. Bring this folk to your brothers. Would you know that this was the last time that Jacob was going to see his much loved son for the next 20 years? A simple, bring folk to your brothers. See, life has its surprises. But God's plan was unfolding, and you want to make sure that you are in God's plan. And what I mean by that is, because you and I are aware, we know what sin is, we want to live away, try our best to live away from sin. So that in so doing, we know as individuals that we are in God's will. The unbeliever doesn't know. The unbeliever is just fooling around. He doesn't know how God is just, but you and I, we know what God says. I mean, look at Judas. Judas walked with Christ all 3 years, and look at what he did in the end. Pretensions. So that you and I, as believers, let us not pretend, right? Let us be faithful, serious, because the next minute, we don't know what's going to happen the next minute. God's plan is much bigger than Joseph, bigger than the brothers, bigger than the father and the mother, Leah. But God was moving. So now look at it. So he goes. So he said, Father, yes, please, I'm going to go. I'm going to, let me just load the van. What are we bringing? Cakes? Okay. Burgers, hot dogs, canned drinks. Sure. I want to make sure everything was in there. Look at verse 14, 15, 16, 17. He says, and he said to him, go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. See the expectation that he's going to come back. You see how we think as human beings, right? So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, who are you looking for? And he said, oh, I'm looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they feed their flocks. Good Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. He went, first of all, he went to Shechem. Like I said, Shechem was some 60 kilometers or so away from home. Now, Dothan is another 15 miles or something like that. So now, 60 is 75. And do you see what I see here? And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. Talk about a serious young man. Talk about a committed young man. Talk about an obedient lad. Talk about a young man who is faithful. Look at that. He didn't turn around. I mean, you will think that a boy coming with a backpack, like I said, canned drinks, hot dogs, potato chips, and all the good stuff from Leah's cooking would be well received. And when they got to Shechem, they went on there, and he traveled the extra 15 or so miles to go locate them and bring them what they were looking for. But you remember when I said before, the black book, the black book that we're talking about, that hatred, black book, that that ledger of hatred. So Joseph goes. For the brothers, all they saw was revenge. All they saw was revenge. I mean, they couldn't see anything else about this young man who had traveled some 75, 80 kilometers to bring them food. All they could smell was blood. And the blood that they smelled was not the blood of an animal, but the blood of their own brother, their little brother. That's what they saw. So look at it. Verse 18. And when they saw him afar off, Even before, I mean, look at it, even before he came near, even before he got close to them, they conspired against him to slay him. You remember we're talking about Joseph's faith, eh? Verse 19 says, and they said one to another, behold, the parrot is coming, the dreamer. That is parrot, the dreamer is coming. Come now, therefore, let us slay him, cast him in some pit, and we will say some evil beast have devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. A dysfunctional family. As a dad, how you handle your family, how are you training your children? As a dad, as a mom, as parents. You see how dysfunctional the family is now? I mean, it was that simple. It was that simple. And by the way, what they're thinking here, we know the end of the story, but what they're thinking here is in total conflict with Joseph's dream. What are your dreams tonight? What are your dreams tonight? What are your plans? Humanly speaking. Maybe you're thinking, well, things are not going well, and you keep going down, keep going down, keep going down. Things are not panning out. Absorb Joseph's faith. Faith. Look at it. Verse 21. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands. We'll talk about Reuben. And said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into the pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might raid him out of their hands. Isn't that noble of Reuben? He's the first child, and Leah's child too. So his plan was what? To deliver them, to get him, to rescue Joseph and deliver him to his father again. And verse 23 says, and it came pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat. You see that coat? The coat? His coat of many colors that was on him. So Reuben, the oldest, he speaks up. And maybe, as I was reading and looking at that, doing this study here, I was thinking, I said, well, maybe, he saw it as his opportunity. You know what we said last Friday? He saw it as his opportunity to finally make atonement for sleeping with his father's concubine. If you remember, Reuben has slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah. And his father cursed him, right? So maybe this is his way of trying to atone for that sin. So he said, look, we're not going to do that. Guys, come on, let's not go. He had his plan that he will rescue Joseph, take him home. He doesn't care what his brother going to do to him. But you know what, again? It is what? God's protective providence is at play. God is working here. So